You are live. Live. Go ahead. I'm going to get this.
Now that we're live and back on, Kimmy is saying we're live and we're ready to go. We're probably just starting the show a few minutes early. And simply the reason for why we're doing that is just to give people time to get online and to participate in the discussions. We want you to be able to see and be able to hear and be a part of this show since it is a live show. The best part of being in a live show, it makes it interactive for everybody. So we see that people are coming on and joining us right now as we speak. So I just wanted to get that up and active for everybody right now so you can see what's going on with us.
You want to share it? That way it's on yours.
Yes. And so I'm going to try to get on here now and get it all set up so that it's shared as soon as I can get to the right links.
Here, refresh this.
There, I got that.
Whoops.
Oops. That's the messenger. Not trying to go there. So go ahead, babe, Kimmy. Tell them what we're going to talk about today.
We are going to talk about dealing with baggage, leftover things from past relationships, whether the relationship was with a significant other, a family member, a friend, whatever that looks like. It could be sister, brother, mom, dad, or a really close friend. And again, somebody that you were in a close relationship with, like I said, a significant other, whether it be a marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend. We all tend to hang on to some emotions that trigger us whenever we hear something, whether it be a word or if we see something. We all tend to hang on to some emotions that there we go. Trigger us whenever we hear something, whether it be a word.
There we go. Technical difficulties over here.
Now I've lost my total train of thought.
Technical difficulties, go on.
So, but which we are triggered by maybe words that we hear, or hey Lamont, and Shauna's on and Lisa's on. But we tend to hold on to something that we've had. And I'm going to say a lot of times it's going to be in a previous relationship that we had with, whether it be a boyfriend, girlfriend, marriage, spouse, whatever that is. And so when we start to have a new relationship, we've taken that baggage from that past, and it's hard for us to move on. And we tend to self-sabotage ourselves. We tend to have expectations that this person that we're in a new relationship with don't quite understand because we haven't told them about them or told them about our history that we've had, or things that trigger us. And so we tend to get upset more easily. We tend to self-sabotage the relationship before it may even blossom and get started. So there's all kinds of things that we're going to cover hopefully today. And if you have any questions, or if we're talking about something and you have a question or you want to hear more, leave us a comment, because we can see them on both of our pages. And so we're paying close attention to any comments or anything. So hopefully you take something away from today's little show.
And I'm going to try one more time to get over here and kill the volume.
Kill it on your...
There we go. So I can see the comments that are coming up. There we go. Perfect. All right. So since we were starting all that, and we talked about that, we'll begin with the topic of the mental baggage. I know that we've all had some baggage from previous relationships. It could be a relationship with your previous boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, your ex that you divorced. It could be baggage back when you were a kid, from your best friends and things of that nature, or even baggage from when you're coming through high school, all the things that you've done when you're growing up. All these things that you've experienced in your life, especially in the relationships, the hardcore relationships, the difficult relationships, are hard for you to leave and move on from. So a lot of us will carry some negative baggage from some other experiences, and that negative baggage will affect us right now in our present day, in our present time, and in our present relationships with others, not just our others that we live with, our spouse or our partner in life, but others as in our coworkers or our friends. So a lot of times you may not notice that until you have a negative response or a negative emotion when someone says something to you and it reminds you of that. Previously, I may have touched on it a little bit. When you hear a song and it reminds you of somebody else back in the day that you used to know or used to spend a lot of time with, that takes you back. That's a positive memory. That's a positive trigger. Sometimes that song can remind you of something else. I remember a very close friend and relative of mine went through a really bad breakup. And then after that breakup, the song that always set him off and got him in his feelings more than anything else was Let It Burn.
Oh, shoot.
So when you hear that song, I hear that song, I think about his bad breakup, you know, and it's one of those relationships that he was just ready to be out of and ready to be done with. He was just tired of arguing, tired of fighting all the time. He's ready to burn that relationship down. So when he goes back and he hears that song, he might dance, he might sing because he's happy that it's over with. It was his celebration kind of song at the same time, but it really triggered things for him. Everything that people do, whether it's physical activities with someone else, could have some of these emotional responses. We've done a lot of work with people who have been through abuse, whether it's mental, physical, or sexual. So if it's a physical situation and someone touches you and grabs you, that may send a trigger. If it's a sexual thing and someone shows some advances toward you, you may not be as a person ready for that particular advance, and that may trigger you and send you back to that emotional baggage where you don't know how to handle that right at this present moment. So a lot of different things can set you up in a situation where you can't deal with the present friend, family, or foe because of the baggage that you had from the past. So just first and foremost, the thing we want to talk about is know what the baggage is. If you have a negative feeling inside of you, inside of your heart, inside of your chest, in your mind or in your body that comes up when someone says something or does something to you, identify what that feeling is. If it's very bad and very negative, I tell everybody, I'm supposed to message my clients and my students, identify what that feeling is. And that's the very first thing you need to work on and resolve.
But first, you might not realize you're having it. So if you find yourself in your feelings or very emotional or angry, mad, some type of emotion, some type of feeling that is happening, and it might be continuing to happen. It's happened. Let's see, it's happened one or two times, or it's continuing to happen, and you're like, what is this? Or your significant other is like, oh my God, what is happening to this person that I haven't ever seen this before? That's a trigger that you may not know you have. And that's actually the first piece, is seeing, okay, every time I hear this, or every time I say this, or every time this happens to me, this is my reaction that's negative. Why am I having this? And maybe try and break it down, and then realize how you're supposed to respond to that later. But first and foremost is realizing what it is. And then what do you do with that?
Once you realize what it is, you got to go back and reassess that situation. And more times than not, it's really hard for us to want to go back and revivify that location of that experience. Because if it's a sexual trauma, you don't want to go back and relive that. You don't want to go back and see that because it's very hard, it's very emotional, it's very difficult. If it's something else where it's an emotional fight or argument that you had with somebody, you've had so many arguments, you don't want to go back and relive that negative. But by doing so one time, you can go back and dissolve away all the negativity from that event. Because a lot of times we will take something negative around with us and carry that baggage with us the whole time. It's in the back of our head, it's on our back, it's on our shoulders. We carry it in every relationship. But if we don't go back and identify what it is and dissolve it away and release it, we're going to continue to act and respond that way. And the prime example is previous relationships. You may have had a bad argument, a bad fight that turned out to be the worst thing ever. And you might have blamed yourself, or this person did something to you, but you might have blamed yourself and said, it was my fault, I put myself in that situation. Now you're carrying that baggage. But ultimately, that would have happened regardless of whether you did that or not. If that person was already predispositioned to do something like that, and you didn't see the signs coming, and all you could do at that moment in time when it came to you was freeze, then you responded in a way that was likely to save you. If you had responded in a way when you wanted to fight back, it would have made it worse. If you would have responded in a way where you tried to run, you would have put yourself in a bad situation. So one of those three things is one of your basic responses that people deal with. Now, when you go into that relationship and you carry that baggage and you go back in there and relive that event, think about it from the other perspective. Think about it from looking from the outside of you, and in that event, what could you have done if you had another option, and what would that outcome have been? First and foremost, we're happy that you've gotten through that event.
Yes.
We're happy that you've lived through it. You've made it through there, hopefully safe and sound and unharmed physically. Now we got to get rid of that mental baggage. It's called mental house cleaning. Getting rid of all that mental and emotional baggage that still ties to that. Because ultimately, there's two people in play in that party, in that situation. A lot of the fault can be put on one of them, and you can share some blame in that and the other if you like. But all that being said, now you're wiser and smarter. And so now in that situation, you're going to behave a different way and come out of it in a better light. So why carry on that baggage from that day into every relationship after that point?
Should we give examples or anything?
Yes, I guess we can give an example. You have one you want to give, baby?
Oh no, I'm just asking. It could be an example from you, or it could be an example from me. It could, whatever just comes top of mind. I don't care.
Okay, so I know lots of examples that I've come through with, and I've shared from time to time. One of which I can't really pick out right now, but I do remember. I've told all these people I've been in relationships before where I've had to argue all the time. I mean, it was constant arguments, it was constant fights, and I didn't know why I was fighting all the time. I told myself when I was a kid that I didn't want to be in a relationship where I argue all the time because I remember my parents arguing. So I had some mental baggage already carried along with me because my mom and dad argued. Me being a kid in the bed, I hear them arguing. I want to go stop the argument. And I remember when I thought I was old enough to do so, I come running down the hallway. I yell at my mom and I yell at my dad. I jump at my dad and he just tosses me to the side. I'm still not big enough to handle that. My mom and dad are arguing. I carry that baggage and that mindset and that visual of that in my head all the time. When I got older, my mom told me, well, a lot of those fights were probably started by me. My dad may have did something, but I probably one that instigated that fight. Here I am attacking my dad, but my mom's probably the one that started it. So when I got into my relationship, I'm arguing all the time. I'm trying to get rid of that mental baggage that I don't want to be in an argument. And now I'm in an argument 3-4 times a week for 3 or 4 hours a night. And I can't go to bed because this person had a mindset of, we're not going to go to bed angry. But she was always angry. So I didn't know what I did and why we were in this argument. So in my mindset, I'm like, I got to write this down, find out why we're arguing. I put it on the calendar. I wrote down, I would ask her what the reason was we were arguing. I'd write it on the calendar. And every 2 or 3 days, I found out it was a different thing. There was nothing in my power, nothing in my control that could have stopped us from having that argument. And so once I realized that, it was just this person wanting to argue because that's the only way she knew how to express her feelings and emotions. Going back and looking at that now, I learned that's the only way she can express her feelings and emotions. If she missed me that day, she would come home. If I didn't show her enough attention, she'd argue. If she had a great day and I didn't ask her the right questions, we got in an argument. And I was always wrong. A lot of the stuff that she was arguing about was things she thought I was doing that was similar to things that she had happened to her in a previous relationship. And so now I've got more baggage I'm putting on top of that. That's building on that stuff. I had my mom and my dad. I had this other relationship where we argued all the time. I put more stuff on there. I'm heaping on these meatballs, all that pile, all that stuff in that pile.
The platter.
That platter of
stuff.
Yeah. S-H-I-T. I'll go ahead and spell that out for those that want to. Building onto that platter out there, you build on that platter until one day it exploded. And for me, my explosion wasn't physical retaliation to her. It was me trying to get away. I tried to flee the situation. I tried to go out my front door and she blocked it, wouldn't let me out. Tried to go out the back door. She caught me going out the back door and grabbed my shirt and ripped it. I tried to go out the back gate and she pulled me around the back gate. It got so bad that I tried to climb over the back fence, the big privacy fences, and she pulled me down off of it. I realized I couldn't get away from her. So I went back into the garage that was converted into a room. I sat there next to the sliding glass door and just took the argument for as long as I could, 3 hours of that, until eventually I exploded, which is all she really wanted was me to show some emotions. I exploded and I busted out the window. I cut my hand, glass flew all over the floor.
Oh.
Then she stopped. Now she's satisfied. She got the reaction she wanted. And now she was ready to make up. I realized at that point in time, it's time for me to leave. I'm out of this relationship because if that's what she wants me to do is explode and let it out, then I don't need to be with this person. So I had to get rid of that mental baggage. And I realized, like even now, 10 years later, 20 years later, I realized had I been able to just walk up to her, talk to her, show that I care, give her a hug, give her a kiss, or whatever else she needed to give that emotional feedback that she needed, it would have been a better situation. But I carried the baggage over into that relationship that I had. She carried the baggage over from her previous relationships. And so by me now identifying it, learning that they need something and I need something, going back now, finding out and identifying what it is, I have better tools now to help me with that situation. So I still have triggers with arguments to this day. I still have triggers if someone wants to argue with me that I will shut down for a little while. I will listen carefully. But now I identify the reasons why they're having an argument because I know I didn't initiate it. I know I didn't do anything to cause the argument. I look forward to finding out. I become a detective now as to what reason are we arguing. So that's one of the tools that I use to help me get through that situation where people are upset, frustrated, an argument. I became that person who de-escalates everybody else. I remember in college when we were going through a whole bunch of things in college. I mean, going out to the bars, the restaurants, and the clubs after football games. We were celebrating a win. I had friends on my team. I had friends on the other team. I had friends coming in from Langston. And whenever the arguments started to fight or come up and build at the club, it was always seemed to be me to de-escalate it because I'm listening to both sides and making compromises to make both sides happy. So I learned to deal with emotions of everyone else in a better fashion, becoming a detective to find out what the problem is and identify the problem and resolve it. So I've learned from my past how to dissolve away that baggage so that I don't get upset and frustrated in an argument. I don't let that baggage from my past come into my future and mess up my present. And I say that because in my last relationship, I didn't have any arguments. When there was an argument, I truly just wanted to get away from it and just end the argument and go home. In this relationship now, we haven't had an argument. We've had some discussions. We had some disagreements.
There's no yelling.
We've never raised our voice at each other. And it's simple because right now, the thing we do that makes us a strong couple is that we have total transparency, open up our conversation about almost everything. If she has something she wants to say, I'm all ready to hear it and listen to it. There's things that we still can't share because I can't share everything in my day, everything in my past, everything in my life that will come up. And I'm like, oh, what? Yeah, let me tell you about this. Well, let's have a conversation. We need to talk about something. And so I'm open to talk to her about everything, every thought, every feeling, every emotion. And to me, as a guy, it's hard. My dad never showed an emotion. He told me one time in his life that he loved me. And that's the day him and my mom got divorced. So there's a lot of things that I'm telling you now that are personal, but I want you guys to understand that I share our story with you so that you can identify with it and use some of the tools that we've learned as just as our advice, me giving you my advice is what you can use these tools for to help you in the past and in the future and help get over that baggage.
Yeah. And we're here having these open conversations to help you all that want the help. And you can message us, text message, however you know us or that are watching this, you can message us and we can talk to you further about whatever is going on. Because that's one of the things that we do. We sit with couples and individuals, singles, couples that are having relationship issues or want a relationship and they haven't been able to move forward. And that's what we do is we listen to past experiences, to things that have been happening, to say a current relationship that you just don't quite understand, but you don't want to give up, but you know that there's something there. We'll help you decipher literally what is going on with that and move. We don't really do anything, but we listen, but we see things that you might not be able to see. So that opens up doors and helps you understand and have some aha moments of maybe what's triggered you or maybe how you're reacting. And again, expectations, which I think is a whole other topic. I think we have expectations of our significant others that they have no idea that we have. We haven't told them what we want or what we like, and then when it doesn't happen and we're upset and mad, well, they don't understand why we're mad because we didn't tell them that it was something that we even liked or wanted or whatever. We'd like to think that they're mind readers all the time and they can read some of the things that we're wanting, but they can't see and read everything unless we tell them. So we have to be a little more given of information. But the biggest thing is what today is what triggers you. And you just gave kind of a story. And for me, I have a lot of things that used to trigger me, that still trigger me. It could be people, it could be words, it could be anything. And I sometimes don't know that it's happening until after the fact. We might be doing something, walking down the mall and or wherever, and I've had this feeling come over me, and I might have a reaction that I'm trying to hold in, so I respond to it. I don't react to it, and know that after a couple hours, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a trigger. That was, and even that was a trigger, wasn't it? Yes. And so we'll sit and we'll talk about it. You know, what triggered it, what happened. So you have to have an open relationship of speaking and conversation, and not be afraid to share whatever happened to you in the past. Not be afraid to share the feelings that you have. You just need to be vulnerable, to be transparent with this person that you want to be with. They can't know and feel everything, so you have to let them know what's going on.
And that's very true, and it's very important to be able to do that because, like I said, in the past relationship I had, I thought I was able to communicate and talk, but I realized I wasn't able to figure out exactly what my partner needed and what she wanted out of me. And I'm not faulting her or faulting myself. I'm not saying that she was right or wrong. She had been in some abusive relationships as well, so she knew the violent part of it, and that thought associated that with some other things. And for her, that was her way of showing emotions, is just to express it and get it out and do it right now. And I understand some people have that rule where they want to get that argument out. I don't mind laying down and going to sleep and talking about it when I have a cooler, calmer head. I don't mind going in my car and taking a drive and listening to some music to change my mindset to come back and have that argument or have that discussion. I also told a lot of my clients and my friends that before I learned to be a better communicator with her, I had learned that with my clients on the phone, I would lower my voice. I would lower it and get quieter and whisper. While she wants to yell and argue, I'm just becoming more calm, more relaxed, and whispering and lowering my breath and trying to stay mellow.
You're talking about the previous person.
That's the previous person, not in this relationship. I didn't have to do that in this relationship. And literally, with Kimmy and I know that when we go out and when there's something that does trigger her, I may not notice it. I may not notice it at first. And we talked about it like a couple weeks ago. I walked away and didn't know that she wasn't right behind me. That triggered her like that. She didn't like the fact that I just left her in her mind, but I didn't. She stopped to get something out of the ice chest back behind us. I thought she was still behind me right there. I turned around and she's 5 feet behind me or more. And she's in her moods, in her emotions.
I'm in my emotions. Because it triggered me. It shouldn't have.
And my response was, what happened? What just happened right here? What happened? And she goes, nothing.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. We have a term for fine, and I can't say it on here, but fine isn't always fine. So I'm like, oh, okay. So there's something happened, but we talk about it later? And she's like, yeah, we'll talk about it. And so we just tabled that until we got home. And then she tells me what it all is when she's feeling better and she understands it all. We got a better outlook on it, and our minds are in the right places. It wasn't something for us to be upset about. I want to say hi to some people that came on real quick. I see Mike Jones is on here. I see my cousin Andre dropped on. Courtney, how are you? Lamont and Judith.
And my mother.
Yep.
My mother's on here.
Hello, Mom. I know there's others that popped in and out, and I can't see them all because I can't scroll all the way up and down on here. But we wanted to welcome all you guys. And there's a lot of questions that you guys may have and some comments of things you might want to share. But I just wanted to talk about that topic right now about the baggage, because we all carry things with us that keep us weighted down and holds us back. And we strive to try to get over those things, and we think we have, but there's always a way to do better.
So how do we let go of them and move on? So
some ways that I found to let go of that emotional baggage is to understand the concept of why we had that negative feeling about it. I've studied a lot of different things in the recent past about what triggers us and how to get the best emotional response for certain things. And when something happens to us, again, my perception of it is somebody's mad at me, they've attacked me, I want to retaliate, or I get hurt by it. and I respond accordingly. But what was it that brought that to them? What was it that made them come at you that way? Or what was it that put that baggage on you? And so I learned to identify with them. Some people, and I find that they carry over things that's not from the DNA, it's not who they are, it's the way they were raised. That's all they knew. When they grew up with a high ACE score, whether in a household where there's a lot of drugs or abuse or verbal abuse, or there's somebody who in the family has been gone to jail or prison or any other different things, or there's just somebody who's an alcoholic who is unhappy or whatever else, some of that baggage goes into that child and they grow up with that, and that's how they learn how to deal with things. I know that I tell people all the time, my mom used to always tell me to clean my plate when I was a kid. I still struggle with that today. Even trying to lose weight, I want to put food on my plate and I try to clean everything off of it every time I eat. And Kimmy has a problem with putting this big old pile of pasta on my plate. It's bigger than the plate. And I've got to clean everything off of it.
No, you don't. You don't have to finish it.
That's the baggage that I carried from my childhood. I think I've got to clean it because there's kids starving in Africa. All these things. Now I learned to give back that extra and do things with the charity part of it to give back to those in need, but I don't have to clean my plate. I still have the other things I had to work on, but that's one of the things I carry over from my childhood, that baggage. So I had to change my mindset about it, change how I feel about it. I had to feel that wasting food or throwing food away wasn't bad. I realized that if I don't put that much on my plate, and I learned this from my brother, I give him credit. If I don't put that much on my plate, that's more than stays in the pot that I could eat later the next day for lunch or have it when I come home for dinner. So I got to where I loved the leftovers, so I didn't have to eat as much now. So I reduced the amount of food that I eat in my intake, and so I've changed that mindset. I'm not going to let the kids in Africa starve, but I'm also going to feed myself today and tomorrow after this one meal. So I changed my mental outlook on the things that was bad before that I could not change back then. Same thing with that relationship. Now I realize an argument isn't an argument. It's a discussion that needs a resolution to someone's needs. Someone is needing something. That's why they're escalated. Someone has a misunderstanding of something, which is why they're upset. And when you give them a better way of looking at it, and that's really what it is, a better way of looking at it and seeing it from a different point of view.
Changing perspective.
You change that perspective, you change the feelings and the outcome of that situation. Because we all think about, if I knew then what I knew now, would I be better? Would I be able to do things better, respond better, act better now? And the answer almost 100% of the time is yes. So now all you got to do is relive that thought process in your head, see a different outcome. If you had made a different choice or done different things, how would you have looked at that differently? And then make that your reality. In your mind, can make that your reality, but without even changing the history. Just accept it to be that way. And then from that point on,
you have to do what? You have to
accept it as your reality.
As your reality. You have
so
to accept
I am working on
not
still.
You, just everybody. No, I'm not talking about you.
I'm still working on all those things because we have to do that.
I'm calling you out.
I know, she's calling me out. Really.
No, I'm not.
I'm calling myself out because I have to accept that reality of that I don't have to clean my plate. I'm still on that topic. But at the same time, everybody else is got to accept that reality that you can change the way you feel and change the way you think about things from your past. So now find a satisfactory response for that. If someone is coming at you and bringing that baggage back into your life, let's talk about me and my arguments. I de-escalated. I calm them down. Talk about somebody's approaching you who is coming at you in an abusive way and reminding you of someone being abusive. Take your power back from that individual. I watched Cat Williams the other day. If you got some haters out there that hating on you, go get you 2 more haters and be happy that they're jealous about whatever it is you're doing. Because if they're jealous of it, then they like what you do and they wish they could be there. So you got to do things that are better for you and better for your partners and surround yourself with more positivity instead of negative. Hey, Shannon, how you doing? I want to welcome you on. So that's one of the techniques. There's a lot of other techniques and tools you can use to get rid of that baggage, but you have to go back and identify it. And a lot of people touch on it.
You have to acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it, accept it.
Feel it.
Feel it, and let it go. A lot of letting go is releasing the negative feelings and emotions. And we say sometimes letting go is forgiving that other person. Forgiving the person that does it, that event to you. Not forgiving them for the purpose of them and having the benefit of receiving that
No.
forgiveness.
It's forgiving so you can move forward.
Forgive them so that you can release it and you move forward. And even if you don't tell them that
They'll
you
never
forgive them,
know.
even
They
if
don't
you don't
need to
tell
know.
them, they don't have to know. You say it in your mind, you say it in your heart, and you let it go, because then that pain is released from you. But also, even more importantly, for a friend of mine or two out there who've already mentioned this to me, I think you've got to forgive yourself for allowing yourself to be in that situation to begin with.
Right.
So a lot of people, when you go to court over, and I've talked to a lot of people who've been into a domestic abuse or violence, or even been into a rape situation where they were raped or molested or something like that, people would accuse them of being partially at fault for that situation.
Most people in some type of sexual abuse are also or try to be made at fault, which is not
Most
true.
people have been made to be at fault.
That's
Now,
not true.
not being aware of a situation coming to fruition doesn't put you at fault. Being blinded by the love that you have for somebody or the feelings that you have for somebody doesn't make you at fault. So know that you can't foresee what's going to happen that somebody else chooses to do. So don't carry that fault, and forgive yourself. Forgive yourself if something like that does happen to you, and use the things that you've learned and the things that you saw that person doing that may be red flags
That you might not have even seen.
but you may not have seen then that you know now. Use your experience to give you 20/20 vision into the future so that it doesn't happen to you again. Those are the things you use to help you get over the baggage, because you become smarter, you become stronger, you become wiser in your situation by learning from your past, learning from your parents' past, and your friends' past. So use those tools, and do not let those triggers self-sabotage your future.
And blaming yourself. I think and some of that is what you said. You can't blame yourself for things that happened to you that you had no way of either knowing or stopping. You didn't make this person do the things that they did to you. That was their choice. So not taking the blame for those things, and then again forgiving and letting go. And letting go is the biggest thing. And you're forgiving others, but again, just what Charles said, you're forgiving yourself as well, that you didn't foresee these things to happen. You didn't see the writing on the wall. Like for me, I had 30 years of bullshit, and I didn't see it until year 28 and a half. Well, I didn't go through a why didn't I see this phase, because I was never going to. It didn't happen for me to see it. So you can't blame yourself for things that happen to you that you had no way of stopping unless you saw it and walked out the door.
And we turn to some things, bad habits at times, that help us self-sabotage even more.
Yes.
We turn to some things where we care so much for somebody, we continue to do these bad things or follow in their path that lets us fall into a situation that puts us more susceptible to negative happening to us, because our hearts and our emotions want us to connect and tie to someone. We want that soul connection, and that to find that one for yourself. And you're going to do a lot of things to match up with them and align up with them. So you make yourself some very susceptible to some harm in some ways. But now that you've been through that experience, don't carry that with you. Just use the knowledge you learned from that and move forward. That way you don't have to worry about the next guy, if he, or the next girl, if he's just like that last one, or that you have a bad taste in men. You had a great sense of what's good and bad, and you have an even better sense now, because now if you see or feel that same negative feeling that you felt back then,
Red flag.
Red flag.
And it's growth. You're growing. That's the other thing, is kind of what you just said. I'm never going to meet the right person. I keep finding the wrong guy, the wrong lady, the wrong whatever. And a lot of times it's not you finding the wrong, it's them that's finding the good in you that they want to take advantage of. So it's up to us to kind of open our eyes and our feelings a little bit more, so we can maybe feel or see, sense these things first, because it's not you picking the wrong people necessarily. It's actually a lot of people coming in and seeing the good things about you, the empathy maybe within you, and taking hold of that, and then showing up as a bad person later on because they love bombed you at the very beginning, or they did all these things at the very beginning, and then their true colors show up. That's not your fault. That's an instinct. They've learned to do that their whole lives. So you
Preach.
can't blame yourself for that. And you will find the right person, because every time you've run into that, it's giving you red flags, it's giving you senses, it's giving you all these things. So you will learn at the next one, hopefully this is the right girl, guy, whatever it is. And you'll see those things. And before it even gets big, you're like, no, you're not the one. Next, because the next one's coming. And it is there. I promise you it is there.
And it's hard sometimes because they do love bomb you, and they do. A narcissist is going to play to your likes and what you want, and he's going to ask you a lot of questions. Him or her are going to ask you a lot of questions, and they're going to provide and put on that show to get you. They're going to do that show so they can get you connected, to get you to feeling those strong feelings, so that you will go ahead and start doing for them. But you can also notice some things. They'll start asking you a lot of questions at first, and they'll stop asking you later, and they'll start telling you after a while. I've always kind of rated my friends and family, the two people I choose to be around, by a few simple rules. I'm going to come talk to people. I'm interested. I'm curious about them. I'm going to ask them a lot of questions. But I also want to know how many questions they ask about me. Do they truly want to know me?
And this is very good.
I've always waited. And I told Kemi, I say, when I go talk to people all the time, I wait to see if they ask me one question or two questions. And then if they continue there to talk more and ask me more questions, or if they continue to talk and talk about themselves. So they can talk about themselves all the time, tell you about what they did, what they haven't done, blah, 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 blah. Great. I'm glad you're doing all that. Nice to see you. Goodbye.
They never asked you how you were.
They never asked me how they were. They came and asked me my name, how you doing? Boom, that's it. They're gone. They don't ask me what I do, where I'm from, what I like, what I dislike. They don't want to know me. They want to talk about them. Now, if that's the kind of person you like, by all means, go there. That person is kind of stuck on themselves. That person may not care about you. That person wants you to care about them. But if you want somebody to really be with, find that one who cares about you and how your day was.
If you want someone to give as much as you give, that's what you need to find.
And you'll see that in your interactions with your friends, your coworkers. Your true friends want to know how your day was. Your true friends want to know, if you had a bad day, what can they do to help you? Where do they need to take you? What do we need to eat? I'm here for you.
What can I do to make it better?
What can I do to make you better? You need to get off the thought about that person over there. Let's go talk about somebody else. Another tool that I know a lot of my old friends and my students have told me about when they go through a bad breakup. And I'm going to use this one example.
Don't use his name.
I'm not going to use the name. This one student of mine that I worked with way back when went through a bad breakup. We talked about it for days on end, until about a week or two had passed, and she was frustrated and tired of being stuck on that guy. Her terminology was, I need an oil change. I need an oil change. And in her mindset, she needed to go find somebody else to date to be able to get her mind off of that person. I say a lot of guys do that all the time. If you're ready for that, do it. If you're not, don't do it. You got to be ready. You got to have your mind and your body and your heart ready to move on to the next person before you start dating again. Just don't keep switching, going from one to one and carrying that baggage and kind of blaming everybody else for the problems that you may be creating on yourself because you're carrying the baggage with you.
Especially, so you just touched on something, especially if it's something that is coming up every single time. What is the common denominator? Are you the common denominator? Because it's okay for it to be our fault. So if we happen to be the common denominator in all these, it's kind of an inward look at yourself. What is happening? Not what am I doing wrong, but what's inside me that's making me be this way, or that's making me act this way, or whatever the feeling or emotion is. Because if you are the common denominator, then there might be something else that you need to work on, that you need to go and dig deep into yourself.
A few books and articles that we read recently, and Kemi and I had a discussion about it last week, was about how someone who may be I won't say the stronger person in the relationship, but someone in the relationship may be doing something to diminish the strengths of someone else in the relationship. And I'll give it a little bit of an example. In our relationship, Kemi does so much for me that it makes me feel like I can't do that much anymore. I don't do that much anymore. And I don't feel like she's taking my strength or taking my power, but I feel diminished in the capabilities that I can do. And sometimes I feel frustrated when I don't get the opportunity to do things. And I noticed that was also a trigger of mine, because I do remember in that past relationship where I argued all the time, that in 5 years of being in that relationship, I never went to the refrigerator. I never got a chance to go in there and get a drink, to go in there and get anything to snack on or to eat. If I got up to move toward the refrigerator, they would ask me what I wanted and would go get it. So then I became a lazy person. I couldn't do anything for myself anymore. I didn't know how to, I didn't want to, and it diminished me. And that person was taking my power and my control. So that became my trigger when, after a while, when she said something to me, it's like, it was something simple. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I'm like, no, I can do it. I'm capable of doing that. I can do anything I set my mind to. When people tell me I couldn't do anything, I was like, I can do it. And all the time, I'm like trying to convince myself that I can do it. I just want people to give me the opportunity to. So there's things that I do for her all the time. I go open the door. I go do all these different things. I don't do it with the intent to diminish her or to make her feel smaller. I go and carry the bags and carry the groceries. I don't think that she can't do it. I go and
chivalry.
I try to do it out of a chivalrous reason, but at the same time, I'm not trying to make her feel diminished. But I can see at times in people's relationships, mine included, that by doing too much for your partner, you can diminish their thoughts and their feelings about themselves. So men do it to women all the time. Women do it to men all the time.
Everybody's got to breathe.
Old ways of doing things. So you have to have some things that you do together that are common.
Yeah. No suffocation.
But no suffocation. Don't overpower somebody.
And it's okay.
And if you're chasing somebody and they're not giving you the attention,
stop.
They don't want you. Stop chasing them. Move on, because all you're doing is diminishing yourself, your self-esteem, and your self-respect in your eyes and maybe some eyes of your friends. Once you stop chasing them, guess what? They're going to come to you.
Hello.
So don't self-sabotage yourself. Don't go out there and do all these things that hurt your self-confidence and hurt who you are or diminish yourself. Don't let anybody else do anything that's going to diminish who you are. Be strong in your mindset. And if there's something you really truly want and you really truly want to get it, find the right way to do it. Find the best way to go get it. So I also want to have right now, if you guys are in our comments, give us a thumbs up if you like any of the topics. If you have any questions, and
if you like this,
send that message to us.
If you're seeing this on replay, tag replay. If you like what we have to say, please let us know. Next week, we're going to talk. What did I say we're going to talk about next week?
Hey, Rhonda.
How to fight.
How you doing?
We're going to talk about how to fight next week.
Woo-hoo. Yes, how to fight. So again, just to reiterate, let go of the old baggage. Do the mental house cleaning. Go back and find all those things that triggered you. Some of them may start from when you're as young as 3, 4, 5 years old. If you have a fear of spiders, snakes, or whatever else, find those things that you need to identify to give you the fear. Find those things that give you the heartbreak that you're scared of. Find those things that make you angry and go back and dissolve those things away by talking about it, thinking about it, and find out the true reality of that situation. Were you at fault? Can you forgive that person? Can you forgive yourself for being in that situation? And can you move on? Is there a different way of seeing that? Was this person led to be this way because of their past and their upbringing? Do they know any better? Do they feel guilty about it now? Do they have fault about it now? And if so, move on. If not, still move on.
And a lot of times you're not going to know that. You're not going to know that this was a trigger for this person unless they share it with you, which again means opening up the communication and talking about what happened. And when I say talking, I mean talking like this, not yelling, not raising your voice, not pointing fingers, not being, you did this, I did this, I'm right, you're wrong. None of that. It's trying to figure out, okay, hey, you had this reaction today. Can we talk about what that is? What was that about? What happened? And that may open up a whole other thing of what's happened in the past with that person and how you need to look at what's happening with them and not take everything personal. Big thing. Stop taking stuff personally. It had nothing to do with you.
Very much true facts right there. That's facts. So let's give another example, because let's move this to the present day. Currently, a lot of you are in a relationship where something has happened in your current relationship where you felt you were wronged by your partner. They said something to you wrong, they acted wrong, and you keep that in your mind and you lock that away in your memory and your bank.
Keeping score
of those wrongs. Mm-hmm. And so the next argument comes up, you say, oh yeah, I remember when you did this and you did this, blah, blah, blah. You go off on him. You go off on him or her because you kept records of that. Or I remember when you told me this lie back in the day, so now I don't trust you. Or we started this relationship off and you were doing this and you were doing that, and you claim that you're not that kind of person, but I still think that you are. Don't do that. Get rid of those misconceptions. Get rid of that feeling of distrust and dishonesty, and don't keep score. Learn to be more patient, more kind, more open, and more honest, and have an honest discussion about those things. Because once you get the heartfelt reason of why that person may not have told you all the details, you may see it
Oh, you will totally see it as different.
as a
And
different
you'll
way.
realize that you literally took it personally. You took it as, well, he acted this way to me. No, he didn't act that way to you. He acted that way because of what happened to him in the past, which had nothing to do with you.
So here's an example. I will tell you an example about what I did. I'm gonna give an example for me, not any of my clients, because I'd rather do that and keep everybody honest and keep their information secret. So the cell phone thing, everybody has a problem with the cell phone. So they all got these locks on them. You got these face IDs and everything else. You don't want your partner to see what's on there. You know, you got all these things. I had a problem because my ex always wanted to see what I was doing. So I would do this when I would text. I turned the back of the phone to them so that I could text. And when I'm done with it, it would go face down. So they never could see what was going on in that. That was the only reason I did that for back then, was because I knew everything I did was being watched and being scrutinized, and I was going to have an argument about it. Who are you texting now? What are you doing? Why you got to be talking about them when I'm talking to me? All these things came up all the time. So I learned to protect myself and stop the fights by hiding that information. Hiding it.
Hiding.
Because I didn't want to have an argument. The actions caused a reaction that caused me more problems and more drama. Now, when I did tell them what was going on, no reason to argue. But that kind of reaction with me always putting my phone face down carried over. I've done that in this relationship for years. Thinking about it, one day she asked me, why do you do that? Why do you turn on your phone like that? She asked me, just a simple question.
Yeah. I'm not mad. I don't care. I don't want to see. I don't want to know what's inside your phone or anyone else's phone.
So for me, I was like, well, and I told her I do this because I'm afraid that, you know,
I'm going to get upset because of the past.
And then I thought to myself, reality of it was,
I'm not them.
She's not the same person. I chose her because she's not going to get upset. She's not that insecure. She's not all those different things. And so now this phone can go down anywhere. I walk and leave it everywhere. I don't care, because anything that comes across this phone to me, I can share with her.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about being open and being honest and being,
transparent.
Truthful. And then the solution was simple. We had a discussion about it. I explained my point of view. I explained why I do that, and she understood. That's what all you got to do to fix a problem more times than not.
And it was because of a past relationship, which more than likely the things that trigger you with your current person could be from their past relationship even. So you've got to be open and honest. You've got to talk. You have to communicate and not raise your voice, but say, hey, I need to talk to you about this because this bothers me because of in the past. You're not accusing anyone of anything. And that's also how you speak. If you speak in a tone that's respectful, you're not raising your voice, you're not yelling, then you will have a conversation because you're not attacking this person.
And healthy conversations help you grow together instead of apart. So that's the thing that you got to do. You got to let go. And that's going to help you let go of that, is have a healthy conversation, an adult conversation with another adult, and treat them with respect. And once
you have to be an adult,
an adult way, because we do have our bratty moments, our temper tantrum moments, like we get back to our childhood and we feel a certain way, we feel touched in our heart, and we just want to spew and let all this just flow, and we want to say all these different things that are negative. And no, you shouldn't do that. You can avoid that if you really choose to and want to. I know people have a hard time of that because I know that they were raised around that. That's the environment that they lived in and grew up in, and that's what they think is love.
Be the change.
Choose you. Choose to be better. Choose to be a different person and make that change happen. You don't have to do it because it's 2021. It's your New Year's resolution. No. Do it because you want to be.
You want to be a different person. Yes, a better person. And it's a better person to yourself, not necessarily to other people. And I know that we haven't really touched on this a lot, but when things that trigger you a little bit or a lot, if you don't talk about them and you let them continue to go in a relationship, then you have this crazy, what I call her, a crazy bitch in our head. And she lives there and she's real small until that trigger or whatever has happened. And then she grows because you haven't talked about it. And now you're just getting more and more pissed off. And now she's big and she's taken over your whole entire head. And her perception is now your reality. Well, her perception is false, because you've built up all this anger and all this aggression and all these thoughts that are not true, because you're basing it on something that you have no idea what's caused it. So that also is why you need to have conversations, so that crazy little person in there stays little and stays in the back, and she doesn't overpower your mind and make your reality extremely messed up.
And a lot of times you have to have a positive hobby or event or activity that you do to help you from being that negative person, because those echoes from the past, those triggers, will come back every now and then. Even though you think you got them all defeated, they still come back.
They will blindside you,
and they come at times where you are at
not
your
prepared.
lowest and not happy, and you're not ready, not prepared. So when those echoes or those triggers come back, find a satisfactory response. For me, when I was younger, I would go do something that was physical. I'd go bowling. I'd go shoot some pool. Some people would go to drink. I call it the two minis. You're drinking too much. You're
I'll go
partying
run.
too much, or any of those things. Sometimes now I go play golf, or I go for a drive. I would go for a long drive, listen to some music. Change the music, change the mindset was what my mind was. If I was in a bad mood, I wouldn't listen to some heavy metal, rock, rap. I would go listen to something slow, more mellow. If it was something I needed to change to be a happier mood, I'd go get my reggae, I'd go get my dance on, I would go somewhere and be happy. I would go find the mood that I want to. I go create the mood that I want to and be around the positive people. Now, I also share this with you. I learned from my past that sometimes we want to go talk to our friends about these things. Don't always share the negative with your friends, because your friends will keep score for you and remind you of the negative, and then try to move you away from that thing that you think is positive. But if you do feel like your friends are giving you a true reading, sometimes you might want to listen. Sometimes you just might want to go vent to them. Let
me say this: if at any time the person that you're with is abusing you physically, verbally, financially, sexually, you need to get out, period. So that is definitely not on you. You touched a nerve just now on a word. So that is listen to your friends. That is listen to yourself. Hear all the flags. Get the hell out. And if that means calling, the domestic violence hotline, that there's definitely some things out there for you, but never stay in that type of situation. And there are ways to reach out. And if you are in that type of situation and you want help, reach out. We'll help you. We'll help get you in contact of the right people and things like that. So I had to say that.
Yes, and I don't mean to not tell your friends about those situations where you are in danger and someone's hurting you physically, mentally, and violently.
That just triggered me.
You gotta get away from that. And I understand your trigger that you got. I know which one you're talking about, because we talked about a lot of domestic abuse, and we worked with a lot of people who've gone through that. And once it gets to be physical, it gets worse, because after a while, the physicality of it grows and it increases, because they can't get enough anger out of them, and they're going to do more damage to you. And so if you think it's already just bad because they're yelling at you, and then one day they actually knock you across the room, and then they see you get up, the next time they're going to knock you a little bit farther across the room. So get out, find a friend, find some organizations that'll help you, make a plan, and move away from that. And if your friends are telling you that this is what they see happening, and they start talking about that, listen carefully and work on that with them. Help yourself get out of that. I know plenty of my friends have been in that. People I know right now who have been in a relationship where they were unhappy before, got with somebody who made them happy because they were just with someone, stayed because that person made them happy. Now it's a violent situation, and they don't tell anybody about it. That's not good. So if you are a friend and you see some signs in your other friends, talk to them about it. Talk to them slowly, talk to them softly, reach out to them and find out and see.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get on
see if they can help.
Fast.
So that's another thing too, because we'll get that another topic another day. But there's some different ways we want to talk about how to let go, and that's some of the ways. You've got to talk about it and vent, then go back and think about the positive. Share the positive as well as the negative when you vent.
And your goal is to respond to a situation and stop reacting to it. Because when we react to something, we are exploding. Our emotions are out there. When we respond to something, that means that we've thought about it for a minute. We can now have a level head. We can speak instead of yell. We can be respectful instead of crazy. So when the goal is to respond to things that we know trigger us, not react to them.
Yes, and that's where, again, when you just respond, you will be able to stay calm.
Yeah.
Use the deep breathing techniques or whatever. Yes, you got to do. Take a deep breath before you speak, kind of a thing to stay calm. If you feel your heart rate starting to race too much and you're getting your blood pumping, it's hard to stop your adrenaline once it takes over you.
Yes.
So take a moment. It's like, hey, can we take the time out? We'll come back and talk about this a little bit later. Let's finish this right now. I need to take a moment to think about some things, because when you're angry and upset, you don't think as well. You don't think as quick, and you don't think the positive way. So take a moment, take a breath, come back.
You don't have your wits about you.
It's best to do that. So in the positive relationships in the present right now, open communication. Don't keep records of wrong. Be patient. Be kind. Fight fairly.
Fight fairly.
Fight like adults.
Don't take things personally. Find out what the true reason is behind all the things.
Don't be vindictive. Don't be evil. Don't be selfish. And take into consideration your partner's point of view, because more times than not, and I'll hit on this right now, more times than not, if there's some untruth there was a reason why that person felt like they couldn't come to you and tell you the full story.
Right.
So if you are doing something not making yourself open to that other partner sharing the information to you, it makes it harder every single time for them to tell you what's going on. If you know for a fact, if I knew for a fact that if I told Cami something and she's going to blow up on me, I'm going to probably withhold that in detail and not say that whole thing. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you. So that happens all the time in relationships. If one person is already volatile and the husband or wife comes to them and like, oh man, I forgot to tell her I didn't go do this, and she's going to go nuts on me. Well, if she doesn't find out, maybe she won't get mad. She won't get mad if I do tell her. So maybe I can just postpone it. We all justify in our own heads lots of different reasons as to why not to tell her. If she's going to get mad anyway, then I'm not going to share this now. At all. And then she's going to get mad later, then it may be less. So
it doesn't mean that it's right.
Open. Make yourself open and honest.
It's true.
Don't be closed-minded to that thought process. Let your partner come and share that information with you. Because, and I'll say this to the men, and I'll say this to the women. There's times you might have to go to your partner and say, I'm going to tell you something you're not going to be happy about. I'm going to tell you this. I just want you to hear everything I'm going to say. Don't respond. Take 20 to 30 minutes. Think about it. Come back to me and let's have a conversation about it. But I think I need to share this with you so that you don't get mad at me later. Being open, being honest, being direct, asking for help in this situation will help you more than not telling at all. So ask for some time for that person. Go hear this information, think about this information, and come back and talk to me about it later, and we can move forward. That'll help you out of a lot of different bad situations if you've done something that you know is going to hurt your partner's feelings.
Yes. Well, we have been talking for almost an hour now, so hopefully y'all have enjoyed this conversation. And we'll be back, not next week, but the week after. We'll talk about how to fight fair and whatever other topics. If something on here made you go, oh, I want to talk about that, or can we go more in depth about this? Let us know. Message us, put it on the comments, whatever, because we love to know what you're thinking.
And if we didn't cover all your things right here, just rest assured that we'll probably still touch on some of those topics later.
This is really our first show. Last week was an introduction, and we got such a huge response. It was insane. It was crazy, and I loved all of it. So keep it coming to us. We love hearing all the awesome comments, and the people reaching out needing help was unbelievable, and we love that. So please keep doing that.
So again, keep coming back with the comments. But if we didn't cover everything in detail this time, we'll come back and talk about baggage again. We'll come back and talk about the triggers and the echoes again. We'll come back and talk about how to use the different tools to help you move forward in your relationship. So this is not a one-time only kind of conversation. We'll have some new topics next week, but we'll have some more discussion afterwards. And we'll hope that most of you guys can get online with us through the Facebook page or the live pages that we're on, the different social medias that we're on, and send us your comments so we can have some live interactions and chats.
Yes.
All righty. Oh, I see another thumbs up from somebody over there. So give us a thumbs up if you like the material.
Hope you loved it. Give us a thumbs up, a heart, or whatever. And we will talk to you guys not next week, but the week after. And we'll get on at some point to talk about what we're going to do the next topic too.
Yes, so we'll get on and advertise a little bit more and let you guys know what our next topic is, what will be. So just put that on there, and we'll go ahead and add that to our
Lamont,
list.
that sounds awesome. Yes.
All right. Signing out, guys. See you in a couple weeks.
All right.
Hey, Teresa, how you doing? Bye.
Bye, guys.